and discovery into music compositions, blending the traditional sounds of a heritage with the electric influences of her surroundings in Goa. This fusion results in a rich tapestry of melodies that reflects her personal growth and cultural exploration. So, this session today, we will delve into her creative process. We'll discussing how distance from her roots have influenced her music and provided a fresh perspective on her cultural identity. So before I give this time to Mansi, I'm going to make a short announcement, which is we are going to have her talk for 30 minutes, which is going to be followed by a short Q&A. So please feel free to write your questions down in the comment sections as the session progresses, but we would prefer you not to interrupt the speaker as she is speaking. And the first five questions that are there, we will take them up during the Q&A session. So I hope that's okay. And with having said this, Mansi, welcome to TDF, and now the floor is yours.
Hi, Anugrah. Thank you so much for inviting me to sort of speak about what I do, who I am. Also, Johar, I'm Mansi, Josephina Ba, actually. And I live in Goa. And I mean, first of all, being here talking about myself is something that I've not done very often. So I'm going to really try to stay within my metaphorical lines in a way, as I've structured them. But yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of things that I do, but I also make music. And unfortunately, I am not the kind of musician who gets to play music all day, every day. I have a full time job, but I do like to sing and make songs every now and then. And usually, I make them for myself and like little micro poems, and I mean, yeah, store them hidden. Eventually, I will show it to people. Um, yeah, so I mean, let's take a step back from that metaphorical picture, and I mean, let's zoom out a bit, and let me tell you about who I come from. And I have notes for this because I knew I was going to mess up. So, uh, my parents, I am both Kharia and Urang. And so, I mean, of course, I have allegiances to both, but I think sometimes patriarchy has won in this case. And I mostly identify as Kharia. So it's kind of funny that my dad was offended when I was being called around. But I'm so glad that it has worked out because I also get to see my personality. Or my identity put side to side like that in a way of the many identities that I have and everything that weaves into who I am. So I mean, the my ancestral village lies in the Ringari district, somewhere along the border between Jharkhand and Odisha. And my mum sort of comes from
Mm.
a village that's on the other side of Odisha. That's on the other side of the border in Odisha. Um, I think uh, just the specifics were from the central eastern belt, were sort of found everywhere. Kharyas, were not too many of us, just about, I think, 5 or 6 lakhs. And the speakers even lesser, and I'm unfortunately not one of them. It's a lot of, we'll get into it. um, I so what interests me is, of course, that yeah, we're found all across the Chota Nagpur plateau. We're also in cities. We're everywhere. But two places that are really interesting where we're also found is in Assam and the Andaman Islands. And um, as a person who uh, believed they were a traveler for a very long time, I played music in various parts of India and have been, I mean, playing my songs some, but like, yeah, mostly, yeah. So, as a traveler, when I got to go to the Andaman Islands and came face to face with the Kharyas of Andaman, it just struck me how surreal it is to see that these are these group of people who made it all the way to this alien land and recreated their world within it. And that really stuck with me also because I feel like I growing up I had very little knowledge of who we are, and for some reason I thought it needed to be historical knowledge or knowledge written in books, that if you're not written into anything you're not real, right? So a lot of me making music, thinking about my identity, has been about how have we been written, um, how do we want to write ourselves, and it, I mean all of this sort of ties into uh, it sort of ties into also a relationship with our surroundings, right? So I mean, in a way I would say that I am assimilating into this modern society that has come post the sovereign democratic republic of India. But uh, before that is where I had for a very long time believed that my identity lies somewhere there, not what was created sort of after I was born. Because I think I got to know about all of this pretty late, not knowing that you are different, and realizing at some point that you don't check the same box that other people do, or at least most of the people around you do. And I mean, personally, I would say I feel like I'm talking also too fast. But personally, I would say that I mean, a lot of us have always felt different and alone and unique. And for some reason, I always thought that's sort of like a city girl problem, city person problem. And we're just, alienating within this capitalist world. But slowly I realized it's also a human experience of feeling different and unique and alone. So, how are you different? How are you unique? How are you alone if everyone is different and unique and alone? And I think it took me a long time because I wanted to see that visual difference in what makes my tribe different visually, orally. Why did I have to seek this difference? Because I mean, I feel like there is so little that is tangible, right? Like that you see. I mean, for example, this weave is supposed to be this one tangible thing that comes from there, that people who live there wear. That this is a slice of life from the community I belong to. But it's all just. Um, I would guess this is just visual assumption of difference, and which led me to think about differences and why it was important for things to be different, for my music to be different, for how we look to be different, for our cultural practices to be different and unique, and like, oh, this doesn't happen in any other part of the world, or whatever. It doesn't matter, because it seems that we've all sort of it doesn't seem, it's true that we've all kind of coexisted along with each other. Sure, there are isolated tribes that have no contact with any other community, but most tribal communities in India, also my tribe, like Kharya and the Urao, have lived side by side next to each other, next to other communities, and coexisted. I mean, they've figured out a way to sort of keep their language, talk to each other, and create a new language, but also keep what is theirs. I mean, there's no like war of culture. At least that is what I thought when I started looking into my tribal identity. Uh, I knew very little when I started. All my information came from like my dad or my grandparents, and I don't think I got enough time also to learn about it. So at some point, it was just about collecting stories from as many people as I could, and creating. a sort of blueprint of who I think the community is. Now, I think I was during this journey. There's like a lot of stopping and contemplating and scaling back, and also looking at the questions I was asking. So uh, I feel when I started thinking about this whole, even the isolation versus coexistence thing and this assimilation, what changed was not that we couldn't be ourselves, but that we had to be somebody, we had to also be somebody else to be able to converse with the rest of the world. So, I mean, this assimilation has been like a key. Sort of key factor in negotiating my identity because I am assimilated. I have been born in uh, an urban setting. I studied, lived, made friends in this urban setting, and I am really, really far from what I mean, what I think my people are, do, and how they think about life. So this whole need for making it all empirical, my journey to like find dates and to find like objects that feel real and old and like convey some sort of historicity, was I think was a battle for a very long time. And I think only slowly did I come to shed that sort of thinking, that it that as a creative person, I am making art. I am not trying to write history. Or even if I say I was trying to write history, because I have some background in art history, and I'd always wanted to also sort of put everything together. Everything that I've learned should sort of fit into little boxes in my life and make sense of how I perceive life. But yeah, I mean, for a very long time, this historicity just didn't work because the kind of sources I would find, we were people who were written about, and there were very few of our people writing about us. So what um, uh, the information we get is that of an object studied instead of a community that is living and continues and strives to keep on living and, yes, preserving its cultural practices. But also, I think since we have coexisted and lived with each other, we have influenced, inspired, um, uh, like brought in words and ideas from other communities that we've met with. It is important that now to be Kharya doesn't just mean to, practice the old cultural practices or somehow find a, of course, it is important to document these practices, but to keep on being Kharya, I feel it is important to make new practices, or at least every generation needs to inject some sort of um, don't sometimes I say needs to, but what I really mean is it would be nice, because the responsibility of it is a different conversation, I guess. But I think it is important that a bit of you is injected into it. Also, I mean, sort of, we are now subscribing to different tenets of living and societal living and what is wrong and what is right. But um, uh, it still doesn't sort of detract from who our people were, even though they may have practiced, say, contrary or now frowned upon activities. So, I mean, I think I spent a long time idealizing the past, idealizing who our people were, and wanting to write these rosy stories and make these, you know, pretty songs uh, and talk about how they looked at the world. Now, from what I mean, from what I've received, because I sort of got into a deep dive about like what the music talks about. There's a lot of talk about like just general descriptions of scenery, and I mean that's beautiful. But sometimes more personal, emotional connections like we have in music that is made now, sort of, I mean, at a more personal level, of course, I know I'm talking about folk songs, but that doesn't mean that personal songs cannot be written in these languages, right? So I sort of wanted to inject that individuality into it, to talk about not just like happy love songs or like happy wedding songs, but also about this idea of being alone and this alienation. Like all of us are in these like little matchboxes. We're full to the brim. It's a full city. We're right next to each other, but we're still alone. And it's it's interesting that all of us, so many of us feel that way, but there's very little art that tells you, yes, you are alone, but we're alone together, you know? And I think that is what I wanted to sort of explore with my music, to talk about me maybe. And just because it is me, it is the music of my people, because somehow inherently it's in it's in there. And I think I've like gone all kinds of circles and ended up where we're at. But I mean, this idealization, I feel, is so myopic, because no society is perfect. Like, um, I think when I started reading up about who my people are, who I am, who the Kharya are, who the Oraon are, what their languages are, what their practices were, there's this whole notion of the innocent savage that didn't escape me also. Like, I mean, I've as there I was out there thinking my people were the best. They never had like adultery or like jealousy or like, you know, money lenders and stuff like that, like, or just evil people. No society is perfect. It's got to have been there. But are we, um, sort of, what survives is probably not that. I feel the most unifying difference we have is that we're all kind of, I mean, we're all kind of the same. And I think that's where most of my battle between like this difference and assimilation, most of, I think, my thinking in music is somewhere between there, because I- I'm thinking about also, why stop assimilation if it is a choice, but is it a choice? And I feel like I just end up asking more and more questions to myself. Most of these things I do in my head, so I am so glad TDF has given me this chance to spurt it out. And yeah, talk about it, which, yeah, barely happens outside my head. And I mean, I think this whole needing to be different was such a journey that it sort of, at some point, I think I was forcing it to be different, that it needs to just music needs to be different, the stories need to be different, even though I was looking into how we told stories, we're skilled storytellers. But um how else do you express yourself? And I feel like I believe that there is an inherent rhythm that I'm absolutely been captivated with whenever I used to go to my parents' villages and they'd have these village dance offs. And it was just, I mean, it was just singing, it was the mandar, and it was just this really interesting, ovulating unison in singing, and the voices, though so different altogether, with all the movement. I feel like that exactly is where I found my sound, that I wanted it to be that raw, that I wanted it to be just the earth moving because our feet are moving, and us singing without anything and just singing stories and moving with each other. And when I realized that this is the sound, I found it. Finding out how to play the sound was quite a task. Uh, I mean, I think getting to uh, getting to a place where I could maybe figure out how what like the timing of the drum is, say, or what the time signature is or anything. I am absolutely untrained, and so had no idea how to approach it except for how I can feel it or how I sort of move myself. And to me, the most powerful thing has been that even though I am so removed from my roots, that I am so far away from uh, where I'm supposed to be, for some reason the thing is always there in your head that I am not home, I am not where I belong, but there's this rhythm that keeps you connected, and that was the rhythm I wanted to work on. And the next thing that happened was the language itself. It's the languages that make these communities so unique. And for some reason I've always drawn this anthropological lens at understanding who what my community is, and by doing that, the biggest uh, I would say it's sort of a mistake. I would say it is sort of an error that I've placed myself outside of it. And in some ways, I have come to terms that I am also outside of it and inside of it. But this perspective on looking at the music and looking at this position where I say I am an Adivasi musician, all of these labels came with like I think so many issues that I had problems with or that I thought I could not say. Like, I mean, I think there are a lot of people who are artists but are scared of calling themselves artists, who are musicians but are scared of calling them musicians. But the point is, you are that once you call yourself that. No one else is saying anything. There is no test you have to pass. There is I mean, yeah, there's no test that I have to pass to say that I'm an Adivasi musician. I just have to call myself that. I just have to make that. And that is when I realized it's just about getting to do it. Getting to do it is the privilege that I have. This rhythm that I have learned about is it's sort of that I've learned about is only because I've discovered it within myself. I've discovered that this is the link that I have to my roots, and that this is how I will sort of negotiate my identity. So while writing these songs, or at least starting to write these songs, I think I went through different phases, and started off with wanting to get sort of literary with it. And when I started, I was looking at sort of folk tales and talking about characters in a folk tales. At some point, when I couldn't find enough stories, I started making my own characters, because I knew that there are loads of stories about jackals and like crocodiles talking to each other and having a conversation. And so what if there was a song about them looking at people just being people, and sort of a commentary on social life as seen by these random bystanders, which at that time I guess resonated with me because I was looking at it anthropologically, and I was like, okay, I'm outside it. I don't think I can talk about me being part of it. And that that changed uh, once I started sort of contemporarizing the songs, and started writing about maybe maybe certain practices, and certain, like, I mean, witch hunting has been a huge thing in these communities. and um, to wonder about, I mean, and the way rumors about witches, or what the idea of a witch is, um, within these communities, also became so interesting to see. It was essentially a little bit of xenophobia, I would guess, and um, also an easy way to, I don't know, catch someone, I guess, or blame someone, uh, not questioned too much. But the idea of witches being evil also, I thought, was of course a Peter down idea. Always got holy men and seers and people who can talk to things that other people can't talk to, and the stories of them make a different kind of song, make a different kind of emotion, make a different kind of rhythm also. So I mean, visualizing and writing these songs and trying to make out of it these I don't know, some sort of like a worldscape. And it's a reimagined worldscape, because it's not going to be authentic. It's not going to be really what it was in history, but it's still going to be a worldview that has been inspired and that I have inherited from the Kharya and the Oraon. And uh, yeah, I guess it is these questions that I think about the most, that I um, tackle with. And when I'm writing music, it is a lot of course, it is very personal, but all of these things do feature in them the sense of belonging, the sense of difference, the sense of alone, the sense of I don't see people like me very often on the street, or represented in media or whatever. I I, I mean, as of now, away from home, I walk alone now. And the thing is, once you get home, do you really get home? Your problem solved? I have no idea. I don't know if it works that way. But I do think that it is important for me right now to amplify that signal I have, that little connection that I have, that rhythm that I have. I just need to keep building on it in a way. And I think, yeah, that's what works for me. And yeah, and when I mean, it's a very weird interjection to do right now, but I I have written only one song that's on Spotify, and it's a cool song, and I got to make it with a lot of cool people. And Alan Lindo helped me. He made the music. I wrote the song, and I also did the melody. And Anand Nauram, he made the cover for me, which was two of his cute little cats. And it, while writing the song, I think I I sort of have put a lot of these things in there without knowing it. Now I think only when I was preparing for this talk was when I realized I have used certain words so um, uh, that are so like objects of study. Like I said things like I- I'll probably play the song and then talk about it. Do you think that works, Anugrah?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if I've been talking forever. I hope I haven't. No one can see the truth about me, the truth about me. No one can see the truth about me, the truth about me. the truth about me. 5 light years and 7 seconds away. Today, today. Think I've been discovered. Think I've been uncovered. Solving riddles they strung long ago, long ago. Solving riddles written long ago. Know how it feels like the onion peels. Know how it feels like the onion peels. No one can see the truth about me, the truth about me. No one can see the truth about me, the truth about me. No one can see the truth about me, the truth about me. The truth about me. Cataclysmic clouds of stardust, pathways to let me through. It's true, it's true. Think I've been discovered, think I've been uncovered. No one can see the truth about me, the truth about me. No one can see the truth about me, the truth about me. The truth about me. The truth about me. So that's sort of the song also reimagined acoustically, because I think I mostly sung it to Alan's version and I loved it. And I think again there it was sort of the beat, the rhythm of it that again felt so familiar and felt so connected to who I am. And sometimes I think a lot of it just comes out without you knowing it. A lot of the context that we build for ourselves, even though we may have skipped the explicit details, certain explicit details in our context, I think it just comes out in art and in music, for instance. So yeah, I mean, so uh, like I was saying before I started the song, there are certain words that I used. Um, in a way, I was imagining the song more like as this space uh, odyssey type thing where I'm this stealth rocket thing that has been uncovered and discovered and all of that. And but now when I look back and I say things like discovered, unraveled, revealed, it is sort of talking about uh, it is sort of talking about what is the story I want to tell about my people, about my community. What is the story? Because there's the story lives on through me. No matter what I do, it lives on through all of us, no matter what we do. But what is the story that I want to tell? Because now I get the option of being able to do that. And I guess I think finally come to that part of like making art and just like just the musical journey, where at some point it was like, oh, I can't like have people listen to this, so this is so bad. How can I call myself a musician? But now I feel it doesn't matter. You make music, you are a musician. And because I am Adivasi, because I am Khadia, I am a Khadia musician and will show. And it just will help me make my art. I know that, but it will be in it. It's going to be an integral part of whatever I make. So, yeah, I guess I think I should be done talking now. Anugrah?
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. It is so beautiful. And like you said, like what was in your head for so long, today you were vocalizing it and it's, put out in words. You, when you said those things, what came to my mind was like getting into one's head. And I feel like this is so appropriate for us, but in such a beautiful way and manner, because the way you narrated your story, the way you narrated everything about your story writing process and identity and everything, it is like getting into your head, which
Yeah,
is so
it's a
beautiful for
mess.
us.
It's a
And
mess.
it is and it really is really 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 cool. So to further delve in the same realm, we will now have our Q&A session. So
Okay.
everyone here, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat box. And we have our first question from Anupam. He says, "Thank you for encapsulating beautifully what probably every urban dwelling tribal youth faces in today's world. When did this journey to finding yourself start? Oh, sorry. When did this journey to find yourself start to solve this identity crisis? Was there an event that triggered it?" I'll just repeat the question for you one more time. When
Mhm.
did this journey to find yourself start to solve this identity crisis? Was there an event that triggered it?
Okay. I mean, I think it's really strange that I didn't know I was tribal for a very long time. I just thought I was Christian, and like, I mean, I didn't know anything, and I didn't feel the need to ask any of these things when I was a kid, when I was growing up. And I only got to know when I was filling in my class 10th papers. Uh, Class 10 sort of like admission form or whatever, and it needed me to tick a box. And that's when I went and asked, like, what is this box that I'm supposed to tick? I don't know what I'm supposed to tick. And that's when I got to know that I was tribal. Now, at that time, I mean, you're an urban kid. You hear the same stereotypes. You hear the same sort of ideas of who tribals are. And I was just like, how can I be? I live in the city. I don't wear a grass skirt and all of that. And slowly talking about it, that's when I think I got into it for the first time with my dad and started talking about, okay, yes, we are tribal. There are different tribal communities that here, but I mean, and back in class 10, I think that was just in a way it explained a lot of things. It explained why we're so different. It explained why we never met any other bars. It explained why we were different. So I think that's when I got to know, and that's when I tried to start researching and looking into it. This was the event that triggered it, but the crisis, I mean, I guess emerged there, and only after that is when I guess I've started. Um, I started trying to figure out who I am. I think yeah, that's the
Yeah,
best
thank
I
you,
can.
Juan. Yeah, and I think it's a very, very relatable situation for a lot of,
Yeah,
young people living in the urban cities. You don't know until you know, and then
yeah,
you spiral down. Now,
yeah.
please, others also, please feel free to write your questions in the chat box. While we wait for the questions, I have a question for you in the same line of identity.
Okay.
So you are a child of two parents from two different tribal communities. So how was your struggle, like, to find an identity and say like, oh, I am this tribe? The push and pull, and also the acceptance from the community itself.
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about this all day also, but so I don't think my mom ever said much to me, and neither did my grandparent, like my mom's parents, say much about being around or being Kuruk, and but I mean, I don't know how I sort of blocked it out or didn't understand that my granddad was saying all of these things and doing all of these things. I mean, he has worked a lot on Kharya grammar and has published books. And for some reason, throughout my school years, I did not understand that this was the work he was doing. That I mean, he was sort of building uh, it's sort of building a script to help see the language in a way. And I I think it got easier to go in that direction because I could see the mission so clearly. And I think only till around the time that I was finishing college was when I realized I am also Orao. And I have, I mean, not for some reason, patriarchy, of course. I have sort of been sidelining this other side of my identity and started reading about it more, looking into more, listening to more music. And yeah, I think that's how I came to finally dawn. Like, I mean, I think I just have read more about being Kharya, and now I assume that I'm Kharya. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for answering that. We have Smriti who has a question. Thank you, Mansi. Loved your story. I'm curious, do you speak or understand either of your native languages? If yes, can we hear something?
Oh, unfortunately, Smriti, I do not speak or understand my native languages. So I can't give you anything there. Can't hear you.
Sorry, my bad. Uh, so we have Ananya here with us. She says, your music is so beautiful, but also so different and maybe sounds Western. How do you retain your identity in art in a cosmopolitan global village?
Hmm. I see. Uh, I mean, it sounds Western because I am influenced by Western artists, and starting off, at least for the music that I wanted to create, um, in my head, I had like different projects, which was this one, which is this urban person, and the second one, which is about my tribe and heritage and culture and all of that. So while I was doing, I'm very influenced, of course, by jazz and blues music and funk music. And while I started getting into what I wanted my new kind of Kharya music to sound like, I was listening to a lot of African artists. And in a way, those rhythms sort of also resonate. Those rhythms resonate with me and the current structure of what I think our tribal communities of what at least the Kharyas are. In Chota Nagpur, generally, I feel like there is some kinship that I feel with like African tribes and their music. And that is something that I wanted to put together. Like it's so interesting that all these tribes had their music, had their rhythms, whatever. Um, and then yeah, like blues music happens, jazz music happens, rock and roll music happens, and like it just explodes. It is that culture times I don't know 200. And it it just it made it sort of a way to speak about, bring their music into the contemporary times. And I kind of want to do that with Kharya music. And yeah.
Thank you for answering that. Yeah. Mm, we have another question here, and Margaret asks, as a tribal woman, how do you feel about the love-hate identity in relation to patriarchy?
Uh, I mean, I think as a tribal patriarchy, yeah. I mean, I don't love it, honestly. I wish there was none of these, but yeah. Another thing that I think about is these old systems or old relational systems that have kind of not changed with the times. Like, I mean, the careers is still patriarchal in the sense that, like, whatever land is supposed to go uh, goes to the man of the family, or whatever. I mean, I don't know, the this assumption of roles, at least in today's day and age, I think it was a mistake back then too, because uh, I don't believe that roles were so strictly segregated. I think there were individuals also who kind of did both, and there were people who lived on the fringes of what was acceptable by the society at the time too. But yeah, I don't know. I don't love patriarchy.
Well, thank you for that very honest answer. And we'll take the last question for the evening. We have Dilit who's asking, not being able to fit in the city because of my identity, and I'm not being able to fit in my community because I don't know my language. What advice do you want to give someone who just started with their own journey to find the perfect balance of both worlds?
Uh, like I would say, been there. We're all going to be there. I think it's part of all of our journeys. I think if you're starting to look into um, who you want to be and who you think you are, I mean, a lot of it's, of course, aspirational and where you want to get to, but I think it's about making meaning out of it. Is sort of like resurrecting ghosts and creating your own past to build your own context also. And I think it is important that uh, you sort of I think it is important to read. It is important to try and find yourself through people, of course. But there are going to be so many questions that you get, and I think it's both reading and talking to people, and just knowing that your questions are not wrong. And yeah, I mean, no question is ever wrong, and that you just keep asking questions and keep talking. I think that's the best way. And just also, of course, healthy curiosity for sort of who you imagine your ancestors to be. So of course you can make you we all end up making a warped picture of our ancestors. I don't think anyone has an accurate picture anyway, but I mean, I guess you create the homies you want to be. Like, you want to say that these guys are who I come from because this is me. So I guess, yeah, at the end of the day, it is going to be about you, who you are. All of this thing is just shape. All of these things is just about shaping who you are and knowing that you are great. You're also alone. You're also different and unique, like everybody else, but you are also amazing. So yeah, I guess that's what I'd say.
Oh, thank you so much for that. I think that was beautiful. I'm very sorry. There may be a couple of questions that you might have, but we will not be able to take them up today. But no worries. I'm sure there will be a moment where we will be able to address all of them. Um, Thank you so much, Mansi, for coming here and giving us your time. But at the same time, also, giving us an opportunity to get into your head and also see the world through your lenses and through your narratives and through your songs. You started off and you talked about like how, historically known and known in books, kind of like made us feel like, oh, this is who we are and this is what a narrative is all about. And I think that is something that so many of us relate to, because like every time we want to know something about ourselves, our identity, about our ancestors, we run and look into books. But then again, at the same time, another thing, no, like that really struck me, because see, I'm not an artist. I don't come from any sort of art background. I'm more into academics. And what you said, like we were people written about.
Yeah.
You said that, and that was like, what? Of course, that is so true. And then you're like, where, whenever we read, or any context that we read about ourselves, it is more like it is the people who are being studied. So
Yeah.
it's a lens of like, studying, and not seen as community who are living, and I think that is so beautiful. That's such a wonderful reminder for all of us here today, because one thing that was so beautiful about your session is about adding on to the knowledge that we already have. And I believe that we can add to our knowledge only when we ourselves as tribal communities believe that we are living communities. No?
That,
And
yeah.
we have the power, and we are the ones who are changing narratives. And this whole session and this whole 1 month long program is also about talking about changing narratives. So thank you for reminding us once again through your talk about how we ourselves are also a part of that changing narratives. So thank you so much for being with us today and sharing, and also for that lovely song. I mean, I'm sure all of our hearts were grooving, and it just transported us into a different realm as well. And I believe a very beautiful evening as well. So thank you so much for that. And also, I mean, thank you to everyone who's here today. I mean, Mansi and I would be having this conversation, but it is because of you who is participating, who's asking questions, who's shown the interest to come and spend the evening, that this conversation becomes a discourse and we can all collectively come together, learn and learn. So you guys are actually the second hero. Second lead.
The real
Our
hero.
main hero is Nancy, but you guys are our second lead. Okay, so a big round of applause to all of you, and let us all use our emojis at this moment, the react emojis, to show our love and appreciation and say thank you to Mansi.
Oh, I also want
Yay!
to know. Oh, thank you to all of you. And like TDF, like seriously, this is such an interesting series, and I can't. I look forward to the ones that are coming now through the
Yes.
month. Yeah.
Thank you so much for telling us that you look forward to that, because now, drum rolls please, because it's time for me to tell you what's up ahead in the horizon. So Varsha, if you could please help me with this. So while my co-friend here is going to put up on the screen. Oh, here, there we have a beautiful poster of a TDF Kohima Tribes in Transition event that's going to take place from October 2nd to October 4th. Please go up into our website, and if one of our friends could actually please put the website link on the chat, that will be wonderful, because when you go to the website, you'll be able to see it. We have our first session in TDF Kohima, our event, from October 2nd to October 4th. We will again be talking about tribes in transition. And the second one is in collaboration with Ishi. We have our session in Ukrul, and it's going to be from October 2nd to October 8th. And we really look forward to having you there with us. And feel free to reach out to any one of us through our social medias. It could be our website, or it could be through Facebook's, Instagram, if you want to know more about our upcoming sessions in Kohima and Ukrul. But having said that, we also have a session tomorrow. So I'm sure you all love movies and films. So tomorrow we have with us Kerry Padu, who's going to come and share and talk about vivid projections of the Galo community. So please come join us, and we will all collectively look at the tribal community through Carrie's lens. So thank you everyone for being with us today. And feel free to go visit our website. Feel free to reach out to any one of us via our social medias. We will be happy to answer all your questions. Thank you once again for being with us. I hope you have a great remainder of the evening and slash night. And Mansi, thank you once again for being with us here today. And thank you to all my co-workers for helping me manage the room as well. So yeah, this brings us to the end of our session today. It's yeah, the recording is stopped. So